Hello downstairs friends, this is Melanie again, and I have another video for you. We've been talking about bees and gardens and planting, and before I start on my little lesson today, I want to remind you, if you haven't put your seedlings in the ground, to go ahead and get that taken care of real soon, because now's the time when they're going to grow really fast. There's a lot of rain and a lot of sun, so they should do really well. And I left them on the front porch. They're actually still there at UMS. I couldn't pick them up this weekend like I said I was going to, because I had to go visit my daughter and help her. So the plants are still there if you didn't get a chance to get yours this weekend. So today, on to our video. We're going to talk about the life cycle of a bee, and then we're going to read a real quick story. So Mariel, my daughter, is my camera person today. Say hello, Mariel.
Hello.
And Mariel's going to pan in on these special cards here that will help us learn about the life cycle of a bee. Right here I have a model of bee eggs. And the bee eggs are white, and they're always laid inside the cells. This yellow rectangle here is a model of a cell that's found inside a beehive. And the cell is sealed for 3 days with an egg inside of it. So there it is, and here's the picture of the eggs sealed inside. And after the eggs hatched, the larva, which is right here, the larvae stay inside the cells, and the normal ones will be fed with royal jelly for the first 3 days and pollen for the next 5 days. Then, over here, in the cell, the larva is going to make a cocoon, and it's going to turn into they call it a pupa. And there's a coat of wax, waxy beeswax on top of them to protect them. And then the last stage in the life cycle of a bee is when it turns into an adult. And the adult bees share jobs. The queen bee lays the eggs. The drones, which are the male bees, the boy bees, regulate the temperature inside the beehive. And the workers, which are the girl bees, gather food for the entire colony. And in the winter, the girl bees kick out all of the boy bees. No boys allowed in the hive in the winter. So that's the life cycle of the bee. And now I'm going to read this book called From Blossom to Honey, about how bees make honey. Try not to lick my fingers because I don't want to get germs on the pages. From Blossom to Honey by Ali Mitguch. When flowering plants blossom, they produce a sweet liquid called nectar, and the nectar is stored inside the flowers because the bees use the nectar to make honey. They drink the nectar with their long tongues, and the nectar goes into the bee's honey stomach, where it mixes with chemicals from the bee's body. So bees actually have 2 stomachs. One is for the honey, and one is to digest their food, just like our stomachs digest our food. When its honey stomach is full of the nectar, the bee flies back to the hive. Some hives they build themselves, but when the people want to collect the honey, they will build the hives for the bees. There are 6 hives in this little bee house, and each one is painted a different color. Each bee knows which hive it lives in, but just in case they make a mistake, one bee guards the entrance to each hive. Wooden frames, like this. We looked at these last week in our video. Wooden frames hang inside of the beehives. The bees have built a wax honeycomb in these frames, and then the bees unload the nectar that they've collected and they put it into the cells of the honeycomb. Then they seal each of the cells with a wet wax cap. Inside the compartments, all of that water that was sealed in there starts to evaporate, and the nectar that they collected turns to sweet honey. Now the honey is ready to be collected by the beekeeper. The beekeeper has to wear special clothing so that the bees can't sting him. And we talked about this last week in our video too. He has a special veil that's connected to his hat, and this zippers usually onto his coat so that the bees can't fly in and sting his face, and then, or his neck, and he has to wear special gloves so his hands don't get stung. The beekeeper takes the frames out of the bee house, and then he takes the wooden frames out of the hives. And while the beekeeper takes out the frames, the bees start flying all around him and get really crazy. But they can't sting him because he's protected with his special clothing. Then the beekeeper puts the frames into a machine called a honey extractor. And he cuts the wax caps off of the cells, off of the frames with a hot knife, and he turns a crank. This is called a crank. It's a handle. And he turns it very fast so that all of the honey drains out of the honeycomb, and then he has to put the honey in an airtight container. Now the honey is ready to be eaten. Honey makes many things sweet and delicious. It is good even when it's eaten by itself, which we all know Pooh Bear loves very much. And that's it for From Blossom to Honey. So stay tuned and we'll have another video probably on Thursday this week. I'll send another one out and I'll let you know when I do, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.